Hello, I'm Isaiah John, and you're watching In Style Atlanta on Watch This.
Hi, it's Merete Fields, and I am so excited that you are joining us today. Today, we have the actor Isaiah K. Johns, who is from the amazing, and y'all already know, one of my favorite shows and hit series, FX Snowfall. Y'all aren't even ready, okay? Just get ready. Isaiah, I am super excited about this interview. You have no idea. I'm a huge fan of Snowfall. I have been watching Snowfall. I'm A1 since day one, okay? And first of all, also, congratulations. You guys just got renewed for season 5, which is super exciting. So congratulations. I don't even know where this is going to go, but it is just such good television. So before we get started and dive into the interview, I like to do something called a lightning round. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and then you're just going to tell me exactly what you think and tell me your answers immediately. So there's no like, oh, let me think of a good, it's like, boom, like real quick. Okay. Okay. So, you ready? All right. Your favorite movie in the past 5 years?
Oh my Lord. See, past 5 years.
I'll make it easy. Your favorite movie.
Okay, cool. Training Day. I have a lot of I'll just say Training Day for right now. Cool.
Okay. Twitter or Instagram?
Instagram.
What's your favorite food?
Chinese food.
The hardest thing about playing Leon?
I would say his emotional roller coasters.
Mm-hmm. Your favorite song?
I would say that would be I would say a Michael Jackson. Ooh, Lady of My Life.
Okay. Afro or cornrows?
For Leon?
For you. Who's your crush? Your celebrity crush? Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? If you could co-star with anyone, who would you co-star with?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Ooh, yeah. And last one, your favorite animal?
Lion.
Interesting. Okay, so let's dive in. All right, so Leon, Isaiah, you've been in the business for several years, and most recently, you've gotten a huge role playing Leon Simmons in the show Snowfall. And so can you just give a little bit of background of the show Snowfall in case someone hasn't seen or some of our viewers haven't yet been on game and been watching Snowfall?
Absolutely. Snowfall takes place in the early 80s, before the crack epidemic hit California. It explains from through the perspective of 3 different storylines of how cocaine first came and turned into the crack epidemic, and how the CIA basically used that money to fund the war. And, and the end result was, destroying Black families.
Among other things. So you are originally from Atlanta and recently have moved to Los Angeles because of the show. Is that right?
I just go back and forth. I still live in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. All right. What part of Atlanta you live in?
The South Side.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So give me a little bit of background of Snowfall. How did this come to your doorsteps? How did you get to this place where now you're playing Leon, which, by the way, Leon is my favorite male character. Aunt Louie is my favorite female character. So tell me how we got to Snowfall.
Okay, so I started acting when I was 13 years old. My mother, she was able to, at the time, she was able to put her effort and time into basically learning this industry with me and growing at the same pace. So graduated high school in 2014, decided not to go to college. So I was still pursuing acting. I spent most of my years acting, training with different coaches and trying to come up with my own method and how I want to develop characters and all that. So basically, I had to get odd jobs because I still had to have a lenient schedule for auditions. So I was a waiter first. Didn't work out. Didn't get along with the manager. Manager basically told me I wasn't going to make it because I kept missing work for auditions. Then I was like, okay, another job that I'll be lenient will be a janitor. That job kind of fell in my lap because I went to a local gym. Didn't really know what I wanted to. I kind of just wanted to work at the front desk, and it was like, well, we don't have any available positions, but a janitor position. I was like, you know what, I'll do it. So I was a janitor for about 2 years. But around that time in my acting career, I was getting a lot of responses from casting directors that I didn't look African American enough to fit into their world or to their family. My look was too different. So my mom, she saw um, the original Snowfall casting or pilot back in 2015. And the agent that I had at the time wasn't like really on stuff, especially that was coming from LA. So she was like, hey, I want to pitch Isaiah. It was like, well, we can't do that. So she took it upon herself. She found out who was casting or whatever, but we missed that go round in 2015. They already casted and they filmed that. So she followed Snowfall for a whole year and she saw they were recasting and they were, recasting most of the roles. So she reached out to the casting director directly and the casting director responded, but she said she wasn't casting the role Leon at that moment. So she told my mom to follow back in like 2 weeks. So mom followed back up. I didn't know anything, so she followed back up. The cast director was like, I think he'd be perfect for Leon. You can get him on tape. So my mom texted me while I worked. She's like, hey, you have an audition for a John Singleton project based in the 80s. I was so discouraged at that moment. I was like, they're not going to pick me because they're going to say I'm not black enough for the role. Mm-hmm. So we're going back and forth for a long time. I get home, we're going back and forth. She's trying to tell me you're going to audition. I'm like, no, I'm not. So I basically did like a BS audition the first go around. She was like, that was horrible. So she like coached me through the take that she specifically wanted. So I did it, forgot about it, still going to work. And she, I'll even say like less than a week later, they responded saying they want to fly me out for a chemistry with Damson Ninjas. I was like, yo, like this is crazy. So basically left Atlanta. Our 3-day trip to LA was, it was supposed to be a 3-day trip. Did the call back and we ended up staying in LA for like a whole month to film the pilot. So that's like kind of like a summary of that whole crazy story.
That's dope. So I'm curious because, you mentioned this before. You were saying that you didn't look black enough. So what is your ethnic background?
So my dad's side, my dad's from Trinidad. His mom is Jamaican and his dad is from Trinidad as well with Indian heritage. Mm-hmm. My mom's side, her mom was half Irish, and on her dad's side, her dad was Dutch. So I'm just kind of mixed with like.
Okay. Yeah, you're mixed. Okay, cool. You look black to me though, so.
At the end of the day, But they, like even honestly, even still to this day, I can do a dope audition, and you don't look like this character, or you don't look like you can fit in with this family. Like I don't know, like sometimes they say my eyes or my hair. Like it's always an ongoing situation.
That's insane. Wow. Yeah. I'm curious, and I don't know if you know any of the background, but this isn't the first time I heard about there being different casts for Snowfall. So do you know who the original cast was or what happened with the original cast before there was this new iteration?
So I think Jill Scott played Sissy. Lauren London played Aunt Louie. D-Ray, who plays Peaches now, was in the room. That's all I know off the top of my head.
Oh wow!
Who was who? So yeah,
I like this cast.
Yeah, they. I think it was just too many high-profile celebrities, on screen, and for a story like this, it kind of works in the benefit to get, new faces,
Mm-hmm.
so people can focus on the story instead of focusing on the person's celebrity,
Right, right. Um, you talked about earlier, you gave the synopsis of, if this is John Singleton's, thought child, and John Singleton has since passed. I'm curious about what it's been like working with John Singleton and having that opportunity before he passed on his last project.
It was honestly, of course, life changing for me. He was very humble, like very humble. As soon as our first interaction, honestly, he was like, Isaiah. And when he said my name, I was like, what? Because, this is somebody I grew up watching his projects. And, I always admired him and what he did and the accomplishments that he's had in Hollywood. And so for me to have had the friendship that I've had with him for 3 years prior to his passing, it was amazing. I learned a lot. I was able to see him work firsthand and to watch his transitions, to watch his thought process, to watch his even creative process was really cool. And I know I'm very, very honored to have been able to witness that.
What would you say is, yeah, what would you say is like the biggest gem you feel like you got from John Singleton? And you don't know this, so I'll even give you context because John Singleton hit real hard for me. I'm originally from Long Beach, California. So, a lot of Snowfall, a lot of his projects, that was my childhood, right? So it's hard. So I'm curious for you as well. Like, what would you say is the biggest gem that you got from John?
Well, as we all know, because his projects were based how he grew up and about his people, he always talked about never forgetting where you come from and to always, look out for your people. I've witnessed John give people that are fresh out of prison jobs on set because they need an opportunity. We can't forget about, people because of their background or because of what they have done in their life. And we always have to, look out for one another. So I was just watching that and him always elaborating on that. That was a huge gem that he's dropped on me that, constantly runs through my head.
Yeah. I want to transition and I want to talk about my favorite character here, Leon Simmons. So it's been very interesting watching Leon grow and watching Leon evolve and change before our eyes from what we saw him from season 1 to who he is in season 4. And I'm curious, how, for you, as you prepare to play Leon, how has that challenged you, or what has that process been like as far as you growing in your own craft of being an actor?
Well, so I think I was very fortunate because Leon in season 1 and Isaiah John in season 1 were both new into we were both stepping into something new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like Leon and Isaiah evolved at the same pace together. So it's like, of course, naturally, I was 20 years old when I booked Snowfall, and now I'm 25. So it's like I'm naturally going to change. I'm naturally going to grow. And so with Leon, he was stepping into, his business, following Franklin's footsteps, and he naturally was going to grow through that transition. So I feel like it honestly worked for my benefit. The fact that I booked Snowfall when I did, and we're continuing, it's a continuous thing, seasons. And I naturally every year, evolve and change as a man. So it's cool to bring those new attributes and things that I learned into into Leon, into this character.
Yeah. How would you talked about this before too, right? Like this was like kind of the biggest break. How did you feel like you had to prepare as far as just being Leon, or the parallels that you talked about? Like I'm curious about that. Like what was your preparation process when it comes to being Leon?
Talking to John, doing research, and having Dub C on set. He was he was our dialect coach, so he made sure that I was standing the way I was supposed to stand, pronouncing the words how I needed to pronounce them, and just having that LA 80s energy. So he was a huge help because he was always, on set every day. Every time we was on set, he was on set. And just having John, at my disposal. Like I had his number to text him questions, call him like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, how should I, come off with this specific scene? Like I was able to have these two, LA icons to basically, talk to at any moment. And that really helped because, I was born in 95, didn't grow up in the 80s, didn't know anything about this crack epidemic. And I'm from Atlanta. So I had so much to prepare and really in a short period of time. Like after I did that callback in LA, we were filming like within the next 2 weeks. So I kind of, even less than 2 weeks. So less than 2 weeks. So we basically, I had to have a lot of conversations with Dub C and John Singleton at the end of the day to basically prep me immediately for, and of course, it was trial and error for me. I feel like I still had to try things and fail because there's a lot of scenes I personally don't like, but still, we're loved by many people. So
what's the scene you didn't like? Because that was my next question. I was going to ask you your favorite part of Leon and your least favorite part of Leon. But let's talk about these scenes. What scene didn't you like?
I mean, it's not necessarily. It's more so like when I watch, I'm like, I could have did that a little different. The whole scene is more so like critiquing myself, micro critiquing myself. Like I could have said this a little bit more LA, or I could have, walked a little different. But I felt more of that like in season 1 and not necessarily season 2, mostly season 1 because it was so new. Such a transition from going from being a janitor to being on TV. It's like, it's such a huge transition. Yeah. So, it was more so like little things. It wasn't like whole.
Okay. All right. So then what is your favorite part of all the pieces of Leon? What's like your favorite thing about Leon where you like, you know what, if this was a dude I could hang out with, this is what I would like about him. And then the same, like, what's the least favorite part about Leon?
He's a ride or die for his people. Like
Leon got heart, boy.
He loves his family, like Franklin, Louis, Eamon, like Jerome, Sissy, like these are his family because we even saw this season, he's not that close with his mom. He's not that close with his family. He was always running the streets. So Franklin's family is his family. It's like, I would say that's my favorite thing about Leon. My least favorite thing is, I would say before in previous seasons, he didn't think logically before acting on or reacting. I feel like now he thinks more logically before he makes a decision, and still has consequences. So I feel like that would be my least favorite thing.
Yeah, I feel like Leon like in some ways wears his heart on his sleeve, but he also but he'll also body you at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, don't get it twisted. Like he'll kill you for real. So you had on your IG, you had an Instagram post where you posted that scene between Sissy and Leon. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen 2 episodes before, you're behind. And but you posted the scene that was extremely vulnerable between Sissy and Leon, where after Leon accidentally murdered a child, and he's on the run. There's a very, very vulnerable scene between the two characters where he's getting his hair braided and he's crying. And in your post, you were talking about, it was difficult for you to put yourself out there. Can you talk more about that scene and what was going on through your mind and what was going on?
Absolutely. We did that scene in one take. So one take situation because I'm not, even in my personal life, I don't resort to crying for emotional baggage that I may feel. So when I first saw the script, I'm like, how am I going to get to that place? Because like, that's not how I deal with, my emotions. But I did know that because this scene was with Sissy, it was going to have some kind of effect on me. Now, my process was interesting because, I'm trying to think of triggers. I'm trying to think of things to like get me in this zone. Like what? I just use music to get me into that space, but I just had to replace Leon's situation with like personal situation, and the fact that Sissy as a mother figure to everyone on set,
Mm-hmm.
literally everyone on set. That helped as well, because I kind of just really, and I also just thought about Leon's situation, like, you accidentally take an innocent life, like how would that feel? And because even filming that scene where we, I shot into the car, like it felt real for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
visual was insane. So remembering that, and then filming it, like it kind of just flowed. Like I was listening to my music, and I told the director to just let me know, like, as soon as y'all are ready, like don't say y'all ready, and then I still gotta wait 3 minutes, like when y'all about to say action. So they told me, I took my headphones out. As soon as I took my headphones out, all that emotion that I felt went away. I was like, oh no, okay, whatever. So we were just gonna go with it. So we start the scene, open the door. She tells me to come sit down, and it literally, I'm glad that that emotion left me, because we were able to go from Leon being fine to him really feeling this emotion. So you get to see the whole entire transition, instead of Leon being teary-eyed at the beginning of the scene, and then he starts to cry, like you kind of see it coming. But like, I don't think people necessarily saw that coming, as far as him being that vulnerable in that moment and crying, and he needed to get that out.
Mm-hmm.
Literally after I filmed that scene, um, they yelled cut, and the director's like, "Yeah, you need to go to your trailer," because I couldn't stop crying. So I had to
Oh
go to my trailer for
wow.
like a good, and then I was able to come back to set, and we did. I forgot what scene we did after that, but yeah, we were able to continue.
Wow. Wow. So were you crying? Wait, what were you listening to? You said you were listening to music. What songs were you listening to?
Um, it's it's a Kurt Cobain song called "Used to Be." It was like from his mixtape from years ago. It's an old song, but it was about basically how he lost his aunt. His aunt was like his go-to, like his best friend, and she was like helping him with his career, and then she just passed away. I think she got murdered, like from the song where I think she got murdered by like her
Mm.
husband. Yeah,
Oh
it was
gosh.
story, but like just the way that he was rapping his lyrics is like I felt his pain. So that song, like because I could feel his pain through the lyrics, it's like it just takes me to that place. So I just had that song on replay, and it worked.
Yeah. 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 That was a powerful scene. And I also feel like, there's not, especially for a show like this, there's not always a lot of moments of vulnerability, especially for Black people, especially for Black men. So I felt like it was really, really like needed. One of my favorite Leon scenes was when Franklin was in jail for, yeah. And Leon was like, look at your face. Like that was like, we replayed that scene, no lie, I think at least 10 times. Like we were so hyped.
His credit, that scene would not have came out that way if it wasn't for Amy, Uncle Jerome.
For who? Oh yeah, the act. Okay, yeah. Why? What happened?
Pep talk. So I was doing the scene. I wasn't doing a bad job, but he was just like, look, he said, just let go. He said, let go. Don't think. Don't think. So some of those lines, like, which is improv, because I was literally just let go in the moment. So like some of like most of the lines that I was saying to Franklin was like mostly improv, but he literally had a pep talk and was like, this scene, let go. He said, you kind of hold it back. He's like, oh. So I let go, and that's what happened. He said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So
That's some good advice.
yeah, it was
I
cool.
felt that. I felt that bond in brotherhood when you let go on that scene. Cause that's Leon. So what do you think is next for Leon?
Um,
And especially with Leon and Franklin's relationship, which I think it's showing that brotherhood is strong, right? So what do you think is next?
I don't know. I feel like Leon is just mentally going through it this season, because now, he was going to take the fall for, what he felt responsible for. And Franklin kind of talked him out of it, and, kind of talked him into saying Fatback should do it. And now that Fatback is gone, I feel like he feels like at fault, but he also feels like Franklin at fault. Like, you should have just let me, do what I had to do. So he's just constantly, like, this season, he's just mentally going through it. So, it's still an emotional and mental roller coaster for Leon for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I can't wait. Um, one other thing. So earlier I asked you about your celebrity crush, and then you say you didn't have one, but now I see that you got a wedding band, and I know we don't know that much personal stuff about you, Isaiah. But are you a married man, Isaiah? Oh, well, congrats. How long have you been married? Tell me as much as you want. You know, you just tell me what you want. But I'm just curious because when you go online, we don't see a lot. We see stuff about your sister and like the movie that you guys were in together. But I don't see much more. So Isaiah, tell me about that. Congrats.
Keep it private, thank you. But yeah, a little bit over a year.
Congrats. Marriage is wonderful. Our children are children coming soon too, or?
I don't know.
Oh, but nothing on the way now. Just right now enjoying, being a newlywed. Did you get married in Atlanta or did you guys get married in LA? High school sweetheart, somebody you met? Are they also in the business?
Not in business. No, not in business.
Okay.
No.
You knew her before. Oh, okay. So it's not quite high school sweetheart, but knew way before this fame that you have. Was down when you was a janitor. That's the right one to marry, Isaiah. That's the right. You made a smart decision there. That's right. So what else do you have? Any upcoming projects that you have, Isaiah, that you can share with us as well?
This moment we pushing this Snowfall machine right now. So I'm just auditioning. And honestly, my whole thing is I'm waiting for the right project. I want to do meaningful projects that have meaningful stories because my first big break is Snowfall, and it has such a huge impact on people and like what people experience. I don't go do a project just because I don't want to go do a project that really doesn't have any true meaning. It won't affect people. So I want to wait for that right project, and I'm just being very strategic, and I'm willing to wait for that right one. So.
Yeah, I respect it. It reminds me of Denzel. Denzel is not just doing any project, right? He's doing the right ones. Yeah, fair. So Isaiah, if anybody wants to follow you, where can they find you and how do they find your social media and what's your handle?
I am Isaiah K. John on every social media platform.
Perfect. Isaiah, I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview with you. Thank you so much for stopping by. And just good luck on your success. I'm so excited for you, season 5, for both you and just as a fan. Like, I am super excited for what's to come.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope that you all enjoyed the interview with Isaiah. There's just so much to come for him, and I'm just so excited for him. And since you're here, you better make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media, which is, of course, at InStyle Atlanta. You can also visit our website, InStyleAtlanta.com. And if you have Roku, if you have Amazon Fire, I know you better have already followed and downloaded our app, Watch This. It is amazing. Make sure you tune in. I hope you guys have a good one. Bye.